Norway. Welcome back to the land of the midnight sun, awe-inspiring fjords, majestic mountains, unforgettable glaciers, and authentic cultural heritage. In this final episode of my 6-part Grand Norwegian road trip travel documentary series, I will head to the iconic Senja mountain, visit the mesmerizing Lyle fjord, hike up to the bluest of blue lakes, the awe-inspiring Blåvatnet, visit the prehistoric rock carvings of Alta, a UNESCO World Heritage site, and celebrate the end of my grand road trip at the iconic Nordkapp, where I hiked to the most northern point of continental Europe, which was without a doubt the most memorable experience of my entire trip. If you haven't seen the previous episodes of my Norway documentary series, please make sure to check them out too. But let's continue to the grand finale of my long Norwegian road trip to the Nordkapp. It was hard to leave the Lofoten. My days here had been nothing short of spectacular. But the weather made the goodbye a bit easier as dark clouds unleashed its water masses on the lush green landscape. After a 10-hour drive, passing the picturesque town of Svolvær and the historical World War II sites around Narvik, which I both didn't visit due to persistent heavy rainfall, I finally arrived in a small fishing village on Senja Island where I stayed for the night. I picked Senja Island as it is the location of yet another iconic hiking trail in Norway which had been on my travel bucket list. Luckily, the following day greeted me with bright sunshine. It should be the perfect weather for my hike up to the Hesten mountain. I got up early in the morning to take the narrow road to the tiny village of Fjordgard, from where several trails start. There are 3 trails on offer. One to Segla mountain, one to Hesten, and a third one heading up to Barden mountain. All 3 are amazing, but I wanted to get the iconic Segla mountain view from another summit, and thus decided to take the walk up to the Hesten peak. The trail leads through a low forest with modest elevation gains at first. I got much distracted by seemingly endless fields of blueberry bushes that, if harvested, could probably feed much of northern Norway for weeks. Thousands and thousands of blueberries were ripe for the picking, and they were a welcome breakfast snack on my way further up. Some steeper passages that opened up beautiful views of the northern side of the Segla eventually led me to a mountain recess that abruptly ends in vertically falling cliffs between the Segla and Hesten mountains. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden clouds entered the area, engulfing me within seconds in thick fog. But as quickly as they came, as quickly were they gone again, and the mighty morning sun seemed very effective at chasing them away to disappear at the far end of the cliff edge. From here, I was able to see the iconic view of the Segla mountain, a dramatically rising pinnacle of solid rock that slightly slants towards the deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Norway is filled with a multitude of natural wonders and stunning views, but this mountain might be the most impressive of all of them. I climbed the remaining trail up to the Hesten summit, overcoming some of the most challenging climbing passages of my trip in Norway just below the peak. The views from the summit are amazing, but not significantly different from the lower levels that are infinitely easier to reach. This should be yet another highlight of my journey to the Nordkapp. I felt blessed to have the opportunity to see such a nature spectacle with my own eyes. I continued my trip in northeastern direction, following a beautiful road along the colorful shores of the Lyngen fjord. Here, the land between the road and the water is filled with endless patches of tall fireweed flowers, blooming and beaming in their typical vibrant hues of pink. I even spotted a garden that turned the flowers into hearts that can normally only be spotted from the fjord or from the air. My drive continued towards the Lyngen Alps, another impressive mountain range in northern Norway. In the winter, visitors can do skiing on some of the 124 peaks, each over 3,200 feet high. But now in the summer, the snow would be mainly confined to the high altitudes around the massive glaciers. Passing the small town of Lyngen, I continued my drive westwards and eventually arrived at the trailhead of my next hike. I was going to see the famous Blåvatnet, the Blue Lake. It is a moderately difficult 8 kilometers hike, and while there is almost no elevation gain during the hike, what makes the hike somewhat challenging are the smaller and larger pebble rocks that one has to navigate for several hours. This becomes taxing on the ankles after a while, and I was glad to wear good hiking boots. The vistas are, however, amazing throughout, offering a glorious view onto the impressive glacier that feeds the blue lake below. And while I had seen pictures of the lake and its emerald blue color before, I was nevertheless shocked upon arrival how intense the color of the lake really was. I had never seen anything like it. Even the beautiful glacier lakes in Switzerland and Iceland could not reproduce such a vibrant blue. This was a glorious ending of another amazing day, and the coming night would be my last night before reaching the Nordkapp. I was excited about my last travel day on my journey to the very northern end of Europe. The day started with another final ferry boat ride from Lyngen to Alta. Greeted by a giant Santa that looked a bit lost in the woods in midsummer, I crossed the mighty Lyngen fjord, which provides some of the most stunning perspectives on not only one or two, but a whopping 3 glaciers. Olderdalen, I took the beautiful coastal drive to Alta, the last larger town of my journey. Alta is surrounded by Arctic tundra and mountains and a great spot to see the northern lights in the winter season. I was, however, more interested in the Sami culture, the indigenous people of this region, and was eager to see the famous UNESCO protected rock carvings. The Alta Museum Rock Art Center offers an excellent combination of outdoor and indoor exhibitions that provide insights into the Sami heritage in the region, which dates back centuries when Sami already lived along the Alta fjord, making a living from hunting, fishing and livestock farming. I learned more about the famous Alta controversy, a social and political conflict around the rights of the indigenous Sami people in the late 1970s, when the Norwegian state built a dam and hydroelectric power plant on the Alta River that required partial flooding of a Sami settlement. While the protest back then ended up being unsuccessful, it did shape the way indigenous people's rights and environmental protection are managed today. The most impressive part of the museum was, however, the trail and wooden boardwalks leading to thousands of rock carvings from prehistoric times, between 2,000 and 7,000 years old, and many of them have been superbly preserved on the bedrock. These remarkable testimonies of human genius provide a glimpse into the lives, thoughts and rituals of prehistoric hunter-gatherers as they perceived the world around them both physically and spiritually. A museum booklet helped me to better understand what the carvings depict. Seeing this largest collection of prehistoric rock art in Europe was a truly unique experience. I continued my journey on the last long stretch up north, ever getting closer to the North Cape. The drive was mesmerizing as the rough but beautiful scenery flew by. All of a sudden, I saw the very first reindeer of my Norway trip. In fact, this must have been the first reindeer I've ever seen in my life. The further I continued, the more I saw of these gorgeous animals with the intricate antlers, many walking by on the roadside, others even strolling in the middle of the road. Reindeer, in the US also known as caribou, are a species of deer that are native to the Arctic, subarctic, tundra and mountainous regions of Northern Europe, Siberia and North America. They are one of the largest species of deer and can cover as much as 3,100 square miles of land space during their travels throughout the year. Reindeer are the only successfully semi-domesticated deer on a larger scale and are truly impressive with their long legs and large antlers. Male reindeer are called bulls, and their antlers can grow up to almost 1.5 meters in length and have as many as 44 points, called tines. Females also grow antlers that are a bit smaller in size, and both shed and regrow their antlers every year. Trying to get to know more about these fascinating animals, I learned that they are the only mammals that can see ultraviolet light, adapting their eyesight to the bright sunlight of the Arctic. These majestic Nordic creatures are herbivores and mostly live in lichen and reindeer moss. Some of them migrate over 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles further than any other terrestrial mammal. Unfortunately, wild reindeer populations have halved over the last 20 years due to human development and climate change. The final hour of my drive to the northern end of Europe was just plain beautiful. I passed gorgeous small fishery settlements, picturesque bays and rough rocky landscapes on the road gently meandering along the Cape's coastline. The Norwegian Arctic weather showed itself from the best side, and I could not help but make frequent stops to soak in the incredibly enchanting atmosphere. But eventually I made it to my final destination, the legendary Nordkapp, the end of Europe's most northern road, which abruptly terminates on a steep cliff that falls deep down into the Arctic waters. A visitor center and gift shop welcomes the Nordic travelers that have made it so far, and the iconic globe monument stands ready for the obligatory picture every Nordkapp traveler will take to document this special moment. But there's a small catch. The Nordkapp is geographically not the northernmost point of continental Europe. The point is located on an adjacent cape that cannot be reached by road. It can, however, be reached by following a long and arduous trail that takes experienced hikers anywhere between 5 and 7 hours. And as the sun was slowly starting to set, I embarked on my final hike in Norway, the hike to the true Nordkapp. I was not sure what I would expect, but this last hike should become one of the most magical experiences of my trip. The intensely golden sun just in front of me, I stumbled over wild and rocky terrain that eventually led down to a small bay with a pristine beach.
Alright, so this is the last part of my epic Norway trip. I'm heading now to the true Nordkapp, and that's about a 5 to 6 hour hike. It's the most northern point of the European mainland, and probably one of the most iconic destinations I've ever been to. So let's check it out.
From there, I continued along the cape on gigantic plots of bedrock, at times interrupted by deep trenches and muddy patches. I was accompanied by a herd of reindeer that gracefully fed off the grassy patches between the rocks. By now, the sun was touching the ocean. Eventually, I arrived at the true Northern Cape monument, erected to mark the actual end of Europe. As I was looking over the high cliff across the bay where I had been standing earlier, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for having had the opportunity for such a special travel experience. This moment was a glorious end of a road trip that had been full of wonders, magical moments out in nature, rugged landscapes, monumental mountains, deep fjords, special encounters with some of the world's most beautiful animals, and so much learning from all the locals I met and who graciously showed me their hospitality. This was the end of my grand Norwegian road trip, a journey I will never forget.